Well, hi, Matt. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, thanks. How about yourself?
Do you want to hear a joke?
Sure, I'd love to.
All right. What did one flea say to the other flea?
I don't know.
Shall we walk or take the dog?
That's
All
pretty
right.
good. I like that one.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're not actually here to tell jokes, even bad jokes, right? We're here to talk about real estate invention. So, welcome to part two, the bad stuff. All right. So let's see where we're at today. Okay. So what have we learned so far? What did we learn in part one? Well, if you want to get rich through real estate, you could always marry a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rich
Now,
want that.
for the guys who are listening to this, that's a bad idea. We don't do that today. So that's out. So we can't marry heiresses who own 500 acres of central London who are 12 years of age. That's just not going to work. So if it doesn't work, what are we going to do next? Well, we're going to try and find ways to buy smart, well-located property. And I can't emphasize the next point enough. It has to cash flow from day one. It has to have a decent cap rate, which is kind of related to the cash flow idea. And you've got to be looking for three types of returns in your portfolio. You remember what those are, Matt?
I'm kind of drawing a blank right now.
All right. It was cash flow, real estate inflation. You hope your property goes up a little bit in value every month or every year, and mortgage pay down by your tenants. So every month you pay your mortgage and your tenants pay you, you're getting a little bit of additional equity in your property. And then I think the missing piece, the piece that I think is maybe unique to this course and what I teach and what we're discussing today and other days, is to add animation to your portfolio, add differentiated value. And then you can never have enough emphasis on manage well. So manage your properties. That is a core competency. And I always say, and you'll hear me say it a number of times in this course, make your residential leases more like commercial ones. What does that mean, Matthew?
Make your tenants pay all the costs?
Exactly. Make your tenants pay more of your landlord costs. The other thing that we have to do more of as owners of property, as real estate investors, is we have to demand decent appraisals. And when I say that, I always prepare a comparative market analysis. I'm a realtor, I can do that before an appraiser comes to a property, and I want to make sure he or she looks at that CMA and that it supports a decent appraisal. Because if your appraisal is too low, what happens? You know what happens.
Well, the bank doesn't like to talk to you anymore.
Bank doesn't like to talk to you anymore, and you will not get the kind of finance and refinance that you need. And you're going to hear it over and over again. Put a trusted team together. What's the number one thing in life? It's trust. You need a realtor. I'm available. You need a coach. I'm available. You need a good mortgage broker, lawyer, photographer, renovator, videographer, marketer, designer, stager. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Property manager. Often it's you, right? A tech provider, because tech is a more and more important thing, a part of what we do. You need a good building inspector, plumbing inspector, structural inspector, planner if you're doing some kind of zoning change or minor variance. Landscape is very important today. Streetscape, right?
Yep.
Very important. Lenders, insurance brokers, surveyors, bookkeepers. I mean, it's endless, but you need a good team. And you remember what we're doing, what we've already learned, is to buy and hold. Not buy and flip, but buy and hold. Drive up the value through this animation stuff that I've been talking about. And then after a year or two, sometimes 3 years, your value has gone up, your mortgage has gone down, refinance it, take the money out, tax-free. And then repeat. It's kind of a perpetual motion machine, right?
Yeah.
You're buying that?
Yeah, I
Atta
agree.
boy. All right. And then pass it on to your heirs. This is something new now for me in a tax efficient manner. Pass it on to your heirs. That's what we've seen other people like the successive Dukes of Westminster do. And that's what you and I should be doing as well to make sure that, greedy accountants and revenue agencies and lawyers and others don't take all your money when you pass. Pass on your real estate to your heirs in a tax efficient and effective manner. The last point here, the second last point here, is to stay focused. One of the things I find, especially with entrepreneurs, is they rush in and they say, I want to do a little commercial, I want to do this kind of residential, and they're always changing. But the people who are the most successful, Matthew, are the people who focus on one thing that they do really, really well, and they just keep doing it. And real estate, of course, is get rich slow. If you ask me how to get rich fast, unfortunately, I can't help you with that.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the minimum plan that I put my coaching clients on? It's a simple plan. And the plan is to develop an independent income through real estate in about 10 or 12 years, 15 if you're a little bit slower at it, that will give you a minimum of $10,000 per month.
Yeah.
It's not all the money in the world, but at least you won't be eating cat food when you're 65. So what is the minimum plan? Own your own home. And you'll hear me talk a little bit more today about treat it as if it was a residential rental. Own 4, 5, or 6 residential rentals, maybe some small commercial like a mini storage, maybe a small shopping plaza, and possibly own some land and lots. Okay, so what are some of the rules that we apply and that I apply and the clients of mine apply? And I'm going to read this to you, and all these words in red, Matt, okay, it used to be when you read it, you would say buy low, sell high. So you can see the first one up here, it says buy low, appraise high. But the conventional advice that you'll hear from other people in this industry is buy low and sell high. But because we're buying and holding, it's actually buy low and appraise high. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Because you're refinancing. You're never selling.
Exactly. You're never selling. Buy before the bottom of the market, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Buy when everyone else is selling. So when everybody else is running scared, you go into the market. Refinance when everyone else is buying. Buy what no one else is buying. So stay away from the areas of the real estate industry that are dominated by large players with ultra low cost of funds. Rent when no one else is renting. Buy before the bottom of the market, refinance before the top of the market, and as I said earlier, pass on to your heirs and hold your property for generations. So a lot of people ask me, why do I say that you should refinance before the top of the market, and why should you buy before the bottom of the market? Why not wait for the very, very, very bottom? The reason for that is on the buying side, you can never actually time the bottom of the market exactly. And if you wait for the market to get to right to the bottom and you're going to get the best price you could ever get, you're actually not going to be able to buy there, because at the bottom of the market, psychology is turning around. People are saying finally, oh my gosh, things are getting better. And so right at the bottom of the market, sellers become reluctant to sell. So you want to buy before the bottom of the market because you can never actually buy at the bottom of the market.
Well, and if you miss it and it starts going
Right
the other
on.
way, sellers start projecting prices
Right.
upwards, and you end up paying more.
Right. And I'll give you an example. One of my friends who worked for the Florida Panthers bought 2 homes in Florida on the same street, both of them going through a foreclosure, and he bought them for $350,000 each. All right? So he bought 2 homes. He was working for the Florida Panthers, $350,000 each. So he spent $700,000 on those 2 homes. These were brand new homes, never lived in before, that were selling before the Great Reset of 2008, 2009. They were selling for $850,000 each. And he called me up and he said, I think the market is going to go down even further, Bruce. Should I wait? I told him no. And then he calls me up about 3 or 4 months later, because some of the power of sale or foreclosures on that street were actually selling at around $320. And he said, oh, geez, I probably bought a little bit higher than I should have, maybe $30,000 a door higher. And I said, relax, wait. And sure enough, 5 years later, those homes bounced back to $800,000, $825,000, $840,000 each. Not together, each. So really, excuse me, really, buying at the bottom market is very difficult to do. And if you buy just before the bottom, it's not the worst thing that ever happens to you to have 2 homes that you bought for $700,000 now being worth 1.6 or 1.65 million.
Yep.
Excuse me. All right, so that's one. And why I say sell or refinance before the top of the market is exactly the same psychology. As the market is going up, everybody's buoyant, lenders are willing to lend, mortgage brokers are enthusiastic, appraisers are a little bit less difficult to deal with than normal. But if you wait to the very, very, very top of the market to refinance, to get your appraisal, by that time the psychology has turned the other way. Now people are saying, oh geez, times are getting tough, and then banks start to pull back, appraisers are getting a little nervous, and so you want to refinance before the top of the market, and you want to buy before the bottom of the market. You know who this guy is?
Looks like Usain Bolt.
It is the most fabulous runner maybe ever. Do you know, Matthew, I can beat Usain Bolt in a 100-meter race?
I've heard you say this before.
I think you have. As long as he lets me start at the 80-meter mark.
He might beat you still.
No. I've timed myself. I could beat Usain Bolt. I can do the 20 meters from 80 to 100 before he can do 0 to 100. And I suppose as I get older, I'll have to start at the 90-meter mark.
I wonder if you told him that if he'd take the challenge.
He might. It would be a pretty pathetic challenge, I have to say. Well, the reason I put this up here is that I've said to everybody on this course and others that have taken with me, stay out of the way of the big guys, all right? These are the pension funds, the publicly traded companies, the REITs. These guys have cost of funds, some of them less than 1%, many of them between 1 and 2%. If you're an entrepreneur and you're borrowing money at 2 or 3 or 4%, sometimes 5%, if you're into the second mortgages, even higher. If you're, you remember I was telling you about Robert Kiyosaki? How did he finance his very first condominium?
Credit card.
He did. It was a $40,000 condo that he bought in Hawaii. He had to come up with 10%, $40,000. Where did he get that money?
His credit card.
His credit cards. And of course, that would have cost him probably 13, 14, 50, maybe 20%. I don't know. So if you have a cost of funds that's 18 or 20%, or even if it's more reasonable, 4 or 5%, you still cannot compete with those big guys. So you got to stay away from them. And there's some sectors that I don't like. So this is part of the bad stuff, right? I really don't like the office sector because you find large REITs and large publicly traded companies and banks and insurance companies, in this marketplace. So stay away from this. The pension funds will kill you. But there's another reason for that. I am not sure, Matthew, what the future of the office building is going to look like. Here's something that I think this is out of Sweden, where I used to teach. And this is called Hoffice. It's a terrible name, but the home office, the co-op, the shared co-working spaces are going to put the boots to the office building business, in my opinion. So not only will you run into those large predators like pension funds, you're going to run into competition from very, very low cost things like Hoffice.
The other thing is we've just seen over the last 20 years with all the different technologies on the internet.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are doing the home office thing, or they don't need the large offices anymore. A lot of people are moving away from the large storage areas, and so in Ottawa over the last 20 years, we've seen vacancy rates go from 9 or 10% in the office space to now 17.5 or 18%.
Yeah, and you don't want to own a building that has a 17% vacancy rate, for sure. I agree. What are some of the other things to avoid? Well, here's a project that this was done. This is another Ottawa project. This was done in the west end of Ottawa in Canada by Homestead, a big development company and investment company out of Kingston, Ontario. I don't know how many buildings they have, but I think they have tens of thousands of units under management. And they built this thing. This is a 3 towers, very nice 2 and 3 bedroom community that they built in Canada, which is a western suburb of Ottawa. Beautiful to look at, really. Lots of nice facilities in there, swimming pools, saunas, you name it. And they did their numbers. The architect told them that this thing was going to cost $164,000 a door. $164,000 a door to build, and Homestead greenlighted the project. Then what happened? Cost more than doubled. So they ended up with a cost per unit of $350,000 for this new development. But what happened to the rents?
I imagine they went down.
Well, the rents didn't go down, but they didn't go up. They had projected rents of around $1,650 a month for 2 bedroom units, about $1,800 or $1,900 for 3 bedroom. So their costs doubled to $350, more than doubled, and their rent stayed the same. So what happened to their cap rate, Matt?
Well, I guess it went down.
It got crazy. So stay away from new development. Here's another one. This is a new subdivision in Ottawa. You know this one, Ravenview Estates.
Yep. Ravenview
Estates took my client 8.5 years to get approved by the city of Ottawa. 8.5 years. If your career is a 40 years in length, Matt, it means that you'd only do 4 or 5 projects in your whole life.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. It cost him almost $900,000 of planning studies. That's not putting roads in or utilities. Just planning studies to produce a subdivision of 22 lots. These are the kinds of projects that take too long, they cost too much, there's too much risk involved. Real estate investors should stay away from this.
Well, the other thing with something like this is that you don't necessarily have the support of the city.
It's not easy to get the support of cities, and it's not just Ottawa. I mean, whether you're doing development in Seattle or Portland in Boston, in San Francisco, in in Vancouver, in Toronto. It's very difficult. So I tell my class, let's stay away from this. What are some of the other things that we probably can't play in? Regional shopping centers, condos. Again, condos are going up in cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
The competition is fierce. And in Ottawa, for example, last year we had 1,000 unsold condos hanging over the market. So
Yeah.
it just takes too long. It's too risky. I don't like timeshare. I don't like fractional ownership. I don't like complexity, and I certainly think there's still two chairs in heaven, Matthew, waiting for the first two partners who like each other to get there.
Yep.
So there you go. And again, stay away from the big gorillas out there, the REITs and the pension funds. Now, I put this one here. I don't know. It's not my term, equity lord. I borrowed that from Neil Stephenson, who used that term in one of his books. He's a brilliant science fiction author, and I like science fiction.
Yep.
But I have come to the conclusion, I think you'll support me on this, that equity lords control the planet. So what is an equity lord? An equity lord is basically a term that I'm using to describe very large landholders. All right, so guys like the Duke of Westminster, who have property in London and Los Angeles, in Sydney, Australia, and Vancouver, and many other places.
Yeah.
They have the best real estate locations. And they have the best attorneys and planners and other consultants, and they have decades, maybe even centuries of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember I said that these large predators have cost of funds, some of them less than 1%?
Yep.
I was lying.
Some of them are getting paid to take money, aren't they?
Exactly. I just clipped this out for everybody. The CIB sold 1.25 billion euros in debt at a negative interest rate. It means the people who are buying this debt are actually paying the CIBC, I think, 0.09% to borrow their money.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So, everybody who's listening to this course right now, put up your hands, please. If I loaned you 1.25 billion euros at a negative interest rate of 0.09%, could you invest it in real estate, and could you make money at it? Matthew?
I would say yes.
I would say yes, too.
Sure.
So, if you're going to compete with people like that, you are really in tough. Now, one of the things you've heard me say over and over again is that real estate is, for most of us, pretty much the only way for us to become wealthy.
Well, in fact, ownership of real estate is one of the fundamental keys to having a functioning society. Is that not correct?
I think it is. I really, it makes citizens a better citizens.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, that certainly has been a view shared by both Canada and the United States since the end of the Second World War.
Well, and in fact, one of the most major breakthroughs from being a low-income family to a middle-income family
Right on.
is the ownership of a home.
Absolutely. And then I did a study a few years ago, some original material that I put together, that showed 61 out of the 100 richest families in Canada have all or substantially all of their wealth in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it. And I bet you it's very similar whether you're looking at Brazil or Mexico or the United States or many other countries. Now, this is an image, Matthew, that when people see this image, they recognize it obviously as the day that the two towers in New York City were bombed and fell to the ground. But the reason I put this in here is there's a tragic story that came out of this awful day, which I call the up or down story. And it's about a man who was working in one of these buildings above where the planes hit. And he and two women were going down. And as they were going down, they realized that in the stairwell below them, there was smoke, there was heat, there was danger. And they saw about 30 people coming up the stairs and saying, look, we can't go down, we have to go up. We understand there's helicopters coming to save us. If we go to the top of the building, helicopters will be available. And the man who got out of this building tells the story better than I'm telling it. And he said he stood on the stairs and he was shaking, Matthew. He was shaking, and he said, geez, should I go up or should I go down? And the two women with him said, look, if everybody's going up, I guess we should go up. And so they turned around and they went up with those 30 people.
Mm-hmm.
And he stood there. He was paralyzed. He said, should I go up or should I go down? And he did some thinking and he said, How long would it take to take 1,000 people off the roof by helicopter?
Hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, probably a couple days.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't think these buildings are going to last that long.
No.
So he went down through the smoke and the heat, and he got out of the building. At 5 minutes after he got out of that building, the building came down behind him, and the 2 women he was with died.
Yeah.
The reason I tell you that story is I tell people you should buy when everyone else is selling. And it's very hard to convince people not to do what everyone else tells you is right. So when the banks and the mortgage brokers and the realtors and everyone else says, well, this is a bad time, this is a bad time to buy, as it would have been after the disaster in New York, or as it was in the financial meltdown of 2008, 2009, that also is the best opportunity for you to actually make some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know who this guy is, right?
That looks like Warren Buffett.
It is. In 2009, he said, buying a home right now will be the best opportunity in your lifetime. And my friend who was working for the Florida Panthers, when he bought those 2 homes, what kind of a return do you get when you buy 2 homes for $700,000 that just a few years later are worth $1.6 million? It's a fantastic return. It can change your life. But people like Warren Buffett understand it. People like you, Matthew, understand it. But it's very hard to do. So I'm going to go backwards. You're the man in the building. Do you go up or do you go down?
Go down.
Go down. Here's an example. In 2009, the foreclosures in the United States, there were, I can't remember the number, but the number of 10 million homes foreclosed, it comes to my mind. Blackstone Group, which is a big investment bank in the United States, bought 40,000, or maybe it was 50,000 homes in 5 years. Yeah. This was an incredible opportunity because Blackstone listens to Warren Buffett.
Yep.
So you should too. So here's Pittsburgh, which is considered a steel town and a town that's seen its best before date. But my client really liked it. So what did he do? There were 14 different lots of tax sale homes in Pittsburgh, and my client bought one of those. He bought a lot with 300 homes. They were all in a geography that were very close together, and he paid $3,500 a house. So for $1,050,000 cash, he got 300 homes. Not 30, not 3, not 1, 300. The perception at the time was the recession is going to last forever. Pittsburgh is a dying steel town. But he said, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not afraid. And you see this little picture over here? Okay. An entrepreneur looks in the mirror, sees a lion, and the pussycat looks in the mirror and sees a lion.
Yeah.
But only one of them is the lion. All right?
Yep.
So out of 350 clients that I asked in 2008, 2009, that I said, this is the time to buy. This is an unbelievable opportunity for all of us. How many do you think actually listened to me?
Not enough.
2.
There you
go. All right. So I hope I'll do better next time. So my client bought 300 homes in Pittsburgh. He put in some improvements. He, made sure the furnaces work. If there were stuff that was broken, he'd fix it. Today, his average rental is just under $1,000 a month. What does his ROI look like? It looks like this. He bought 300 houses for $1,050,000. He put in some improvements. His total cash invested in this project was about $2.7 million. He gets about $980 a month. So he gets about $294,000 a month in rental income. He has a vacancy rate that's almost nothing because Pittsburgh has really come back. Yep. It's a big college town. It's a big medical center. Something else he did, as part of the deal with the city, he got a 10-year property tax holiday. So he doesn't pay any property taxes. And this one here, if you can see it here, it shows that he has self-insured. Do you know what that is, Matt?
That he's self-insured?
Yeah. Have you heard that term before?
Well, I guess he's got enough money that he doesn't need insurance.
Yeah, he said, look, when you have 300 homes there, he actually pays the insurance, but he pays it to his own fund.
Yeah.
He has a sinking fund, and he's self-insured, right?
Yeah. So that's not available for everybody.
No, if you had 1 or 2 or 3 homes, you wouldn't do that. But if you had 300, you might.
Yeah.
All right. So he self-insures, and then he has a significant amount of repairs and maintenance, and his legal costs and compliance costs, and his contingencies. He ended up with about a net operating income of about $3.1 million or $3.2 million a year. He gets his investment back every 0.85 years. He has a ridiculous cap rate of 118%.
It's
Okay,
not bad.
that's good. So when you buy, you want to have a really high cap rate. But when you sell, which we don't do, right, Matt?
No, we
You
never
want to
sell.
have a really low cap rate. So if you think about it, I'll go back here. He has a cap rate of 118%, but if he were to sell, he would probably get about a 5 or 5.25% cap rate. So the value of this portfolio that cost him $2.7 million is now probably about $60 million. 2 years ago, he had an offer on the properties
Hmm.
for more than 60 million bucks, and
Yeah.
he said, "It's the best thing I've ever done."
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I do it? His personal income now is over $3 million a year. He said, "I don't need any more than that. Who needs more than $3 million a year?"
Well, I mean, it'd be nice, but you don't necessarily have to have it.
Yeah, and I talked to him and I said, "Look, I agree. Don't sell it. Use the Warren Buffett methodology." What's that?
Hmm.
You make more money by not selling. Oh, how do I do that? I said, "Well, you could, now that you've got an appraisal that shows this thing being worth this portfolio being worth over $60 million, you could do a loan to value of just 50% and take out $30 million of cash tax free."
Hmm. Well, and then the tricky thing is, what do you do with that 30 million bucks now?
Well, I can tell you what he's doing, but I can't say it on the, I can't say it publicly, so none of anyone's business. All right, so it's time for a break now.